Well, we're here now. And what do you do if you're somebody who is afraid of your SIG 320 going off inside of its holster, sitting on the table, or better yet, when you're just not pulling the trigger? If you've been following social media, or you've been following anything in the media, lawsuits, whatever it's happened with SIG Sauer and the 320 series of pistols, you've probably come to notice that there's been a widespread reporting of the 320 going off either in a holster or when the trigger's not being pulled. Personally, I have never experienced that. Personally, I've also carried a SIG 320 as a duty pistol for a very long time before I actually left the highway patrol. I carried one ultimately for 6 years, and really it was we were probably one of the early adopters of the SIG 320 series of pistols. I trusted my life to it. I believed in the pistol, it shot well, I never had any issues, and in our agency with, I don't know, let's say almost 2,000 of those pistols issued, we never had a problem. I will also clear the air to an extent. A lot of the people that have reported these issues occurring are police officers. I will speak frankly and tell you that as somebody who trained police officers, watched them on the firing line, was at the range with them, watched them handle guns, they are some of the absolute worst gun handling people in the entire gun community. So, keep that or take that with a grain of salt. However, the issue itself has come to light and it's been, let's say, documented in a number of cases. There isn't really any proof at this exact moment of it occurring to an extent to where, like, they've watched it occur in slow-mo or anything like that, but it has happened and it's been reported. And like I said before, there are lawsuits. So what I'm gonna do though, outside of the fact that, like I said, mine I haven't had any issues with, I wanna help you decide what you would get if you're not going to get a SIG 320, or better yet, if you're getting rid of your 320, what should you get instead of a 320? Well, on this table, I have some of my absolute favorite pistols that we've shot over the last few years that I happen to like a lot and trust a lot. Now, not all of them are on this table, but what I did limit this table to is pretty much all striker fire guns, because that's what the 320 series is. Now, my AXG Legion, a lot of rounds through it. It's been great. But like I said, pretty much everything on this table is a striker fire pistol. And on top of it, they also all offer models and within these brands and pistol lines that are similar to something that you can get in a 320. So I'm gonna kind of rank these from, let's say, 5 to 1, right? Number 1 being my number 1 choice if I'm gonna get rid of a 320 and get a pistol. So number 5. My 5th choice is a OA Defense 2311. I make this my 5th choice not because it's not the best shooting. It's easily the best shooting pistol on this entire table. It's definitely my most favorite gun on this whole entire table, but it's also twice as expensive as most of your 320s. But what I would tell you is to take SIG 320 mags. So if you're somebody that has a pile of 320 mags, you can get a 2311 and carry this pistol. They have ported models, they have non-ported models, they have compact, full size, and then now they have a metal grip model coming out. There's tons of stuff on the market for these. I would easily trust my life to these pistols. I carried one of these at the Mammoth Sniper Challenge. This pistol, as you see it sitting here, the full-size Pro, this pistol has roughly 5,000 to 6,000 rounds through it now. Been 100% reliable. Even when it gets dirty, this pistol just does not stop. I really do love this pistol, but they are expensive and they are out of the price range for some people. So if you're sticking with a striker fire gun, the next choice I would say for a striker fire gun, you're not going to get 320, it's going to be the Springfield Echelon series of pistols. The Echelon series, the best thing they have going for them, they have modularity just like the FCU from the 320 series pistols, meaning you can take the chassis out of this, put it in different grip modules, change the slide length and things like that. But what I'll tell you, unfortunately right now, the aftermarket isn't quite there to the extent that it is there for the 320. It is catching up, because I've seen companies like Icarus Precision or Mischief Machine come out with grip modules and things like that. But the multi-optic footprint on here, the slide serrations, the sights, the grip textures and all that stuff is good. But what I'll tell you, downfall to these is that the grip angle is very, very similar to a Glock pistol. So if you're somebody that doesn't like Glock pistols and the grip angle, the Echelon series of pistols is very similar, but it does have a low bore axis like that. So, I have the full size here, the compact, and then you can get the Echelon comped version, which is a full size 4.5-inch gun with a chunk port out of the front of the gun. So, right there, like I said, this is number 4. Number 3. Now, don't hate me for this. The only reason I really choose Glock as number 3 and not being number 1 is because with the Glock pistol, the Glock brand itself lacks. Okay, they don't have great grip textures, but they are reliable, very proven, and if you're a police officer, you are not gonna go wrong with putting a Glock inside of your holster. They're very well proven. I mean, some of the Glocks that I, let's say recovered and things like that, and stolen vehicles or whatever it be, there were instances when we go to test fire them, I couldn't believe that they would even go off, and they went off every single time. I can't speak and say that for every brand we ever did. So they're a really great pistol, and obviously this is the 45 with the A cut on here, and this pistol and this optic setup, it's just a really great duty setup out of the box. Now, if you're somebody that doesn't like Glock, you know that we're big fans of Shadow Systems pistols here on the channel. I have, between all of their pistols, probably over 20,000 rounds through all their guns. This is the DR920L. It's my favorite non-comped Shadow Systems pistol. So this thing shoots great. I have about 3,000 rounds through this gun. The other model I have here, this is their most popular. This is the MR920. This is actually what I like to call my nightstand gun. I keep it up by my nightstand. It's reliable. I like it. It's good size. It's somewhat smaller in nature, but it's like a full-size fighting gun. And I also carry the CR920XB. They basically improve upon everything that Glock doesn't do. The slide serrations, the grip textures, the optics cut, the sights. They're more expensive though, right? But they do have the Foundation series. So there's two other brands left here on this table that are well proven. They're great brands. And so the number 2 spot is gonna come for Smith & Wesson. Now, they're slept on a lot, and I don't really know why. I personally have been, let's say, the person who has slept on them. What I would tell you is that every time I shoot a M&P, I'm like, wow, this thing shoots really nice. I can't say that for everybody. I don't think they have the best trigger, but I'll tell you, out of all these pistols on this table, the Smith & Wesson M&P, like Pro Series triggers, like this is the competitor model, which I happen to really love. And then you guys have seen this pistol come up in videos. This is the Carry Comp Compact. The triggers are really good. I mean, out of all these pistols here on the table, I'd probably prefer that trigger over like the Shadow Systems or over the regular Glock or the Echelon. But overall, like these pistols both have great slide serrations and great grip textures. This one's obviously metal frame, magwell, big old paddle here. Between the DR920L and this M&P competitor, two fantastic competitive pistol shooting options if you're not going to use like an X5 or the Max Michel model from SIG Sauer. So these things are great. They can take tons of different optics. You see I have the Vortex series optics on here, the Defenders XL and the ST. Good sights if you don't want that. They come off, they're easy to mount. Out of the box, I was able to, that's probably the thing with all these pistols, is out of the box, I'm able to mount whatever optic I want on them, with the exception of, we'll get to this other one here on the table. But the M&P series, I would argue that it's just as proven now at this point as Glock. They've been around for a very long time. A lot of police officers carry the M&P. I know several local departments that authorize this pistol to be carried. I know a lot of guys carried it. When I took the Apata pistol instructor course, there was another guy there that I shot a lot with that was from a local sheriff's department, and he loved his M&P. And I actually shot his gun while we were there and liked it more than my 320. So I think they're a really great pistol that I would have no doubt or hesitation in my mind to trust my life with. So the 320, is what it is. But like I said, the M&P series or Glock are great duty pistols if you can't carry a 320 anymore. Now, my number 1 choice is the Walther PDP. The Walther PDP, out of all these guns on the table, has some of the nicest feeling grips, the most ergonomic. It's the easiest to hold. Is it a little bit chunkier? Sure. But it has great controls on it, ambi slide stop slide releases, magazine release on here. Like this is the steel frame model. It feels fantastic in my hand. The slide's easy to rack, has good slide serrations, the optics cut. It is good. However, what I'll tell you is that I wish that they would just give you the darn plates in the box with the gun. I've made that point several times. However, you can get them. They're pretty inexpensive. And at the end of the day, with the Walther series of pistols, like really all of these pistols, they all come in at price points between $500 to, let's say, $800, depending on the model you want. Now, this one obviously is super expensive because it's the metal frame, and they're about $1,500 street price, so they're pretty darn expensive. But it's really hard to beat how this steel frame Walther PDP 4-inch feels, or 4.5, feels compared to everything else on this table. It shoots better than most of my comped guns. And it is just a really, really great gun. Now, of course, I have this other, the Pro series, and they have the Pro E, and the Pro E series from Walther, I think is one of the absolute best values on the market. And the best part about Walther is that for a striker fire gun, the trigger is just, they're unbeatable. They're absolutely fantastic. They feel good, and the value, and on top of that, you know, what I probably say with all these companies again is the quality. I mean, Walther's one of those brands that you'd never read or see or hear of anything bad in regards to quality. Every pistol, every company has issues now and then, but Walther has always had a good reputation for quality. So, you know, myself, I know that Pennsylvania State Police, or PSP, is now carrying a Walther PDP, and good for them. I think it's a fantastic option. In fact, a lot of times when people ask me, what would you recommend somebody for their first pistol? And they have, you know, they ask me, and a lot of times they ask about the PDP, and I pretty much always tell them the Walther PDP. It's just a really good pistol. They've been 100% reliable to date. I have not experienced a single malfunction through a Walther PDP pistol. I don't alter the springs in them. I don't really alter the triggers at all like a lot of people do. Now this one I did because I was setting it up a little different, but they make a really great pistol that's reliable, that I know for sure you can trust your life with. But really what I would tell you about all these pistols here on the table, you could trust your life with every single one of these, in my opinion. I've used them all, I've shot them all, and I would trust my own life with all of these. So I've had great luck with all of them. And you know, for everything that is clouding and shadowing over the 320 series and the issues that you're hearing about and things like that, if you're somebody that's on the fence, you don't need one. You don't need to get a 320. You can go and get a regular old, good old Glock, right? You know, and it's gonna be one of the best duty pistols to ever go down in the course of history. There's tons of duty holsters out there for them. The OA Defense, I would say, is like more like a high-class, experienced shooter type gun for duty, but it's also a fantastic gun that if you don't want, you know, a 2011, if you don't want a staccato, I think it's one of the most reliable, let's say, single action guns on the market, and it's just proven that to me. So guys, with all of these guns, you disagree with my choice, you disagree with what I think is the best choice out of all these, there isn't a wrong one on this table in my opinion. I think they're all fantastic, but if you disagree, drop us a comment down below and let us know what you think is your #1 choice if you're not going to get a 320.